Okay, Sarah here. I need my extra coffee because I have done this recording a few times now, and either it's the mic not working or the webcam not working, and so I cannot figure out this technology stuff, but I am committed to getting this recording out. And so the focus for today is on business income. I've gotten a few questions on this since I started these recordings and sharing these resources. So the question that I'm trying to answer today is how to use a program like Wealthsimple, or maybe you want to use Turbotax, Ufile, whatever it might be, to file business income that is a sole proprietorship, that is unincorporated. And so maybe you want to give it a go. You want to try this on your own. And maybe through watching this recording, you realize, yeah, you can do it. You're simple enough that why not? You can file your own. Or through this recording, you realize, maybe not. Maybe I do need the additional assistance to file and get things organized. Okay, so hoping this is just going to work this time. I'm going to fly through this. So I'm going to leverage from the tax checklist that we have here at SCL. You don't need to use it. It's just we're using this as a reference. You also can use it if you wish. You just select the I do not plan to engage SCL, and you're using this for your own references. That way we're not chasing you. But of course, you're welcome to use this. So the focus for this is on this question here, which is you are self-employed. You are earning business income that is unincorporated. That is, you are a sole proprietor. Okay, you are self-employed, and so you say yes to this, then you're going to be greeted with, of course, additional questions. So I'm going to fly through this. We're going to go through maybe a few scenarios from simplest to maybe a bit more complicated. So first off, the first few considerations are for you to answer, really. No one knows your business better than you. And so just taking the opportunity to communicate that information to whoever is assisting you with your filing. This question here, for example, any major events, maybe your A+++, where you have regular business meetings and business agendas, you have that documented, great. Or you have your diary, your journal, okay, those are all great to look back on and double check, hey, was there anything in this year that might have a tax implication? If you don't do this, if you're not in the practice of doing this, then taking that initiative once a year to at least self-reflect and communicate if there was any major events, therefore, could there be any tax implication? So for this scenario, we're going to say no to sales tax exposure. I could spend hours on this topic, but I'm going to spare myself because I'm about to go crazy trying to record this. We're going to say no. Okay, so super simple. And so let's give this a go. So I have some more qualitative considerations before we start playing with some numbers, but I want to emphasize again, nobody knows your business better than you. And so just making sure you have the right habits. If you are truly, pursuing entrepreneurship, you want to be self-employed, there's a lot of responsibilities that come with that, and that is staying organized. So I do not like to see this one here. I don't do any tracking. Okay, well, that's a little scary. Then at the minimum, right, can you employ a very basic spreadsheet? If you don't have one, then you can always request, right? There's simple trackers I'm more than happy to share, or you can always download some. Lots of influencers have their products out there. You can just download or prepare a very basic spreadsheet to at least stay somewhat organized throughout the year. Or perhaps you're willing to invest the funds for an accounting program, be it QuickBooks, QBO, Desktop, if you like that, Zero, Wave, FreshBooks, right? So there's many different products out there. I do want to separate an accounting program to a sales program. These are not the same, right? So, right, accounting program, be it a spreadsheet or an actual platform, and acknowledging that this is separate to your sales platform. So you tell me you made $100,000 in sales in a year. How do you know this, right? I hope you're tracking this. So there are many platforms out there, be it Square, Shopify, Stripe, JNAP, for example, that are helping from that sales perspective. It does a nice job at tracking not only the sales number, but it also can collect important information like your client details, right? The client metrics and so on. So making sure you're employing things like that. Okay, so let's say here, what information can you share pertaining to your business, right? So again, this is up to you. I always find it funny when people select this one here, which is, no, I don't want to populate your summary below. Okay, one way or another, how are you going to communicate your information? But let's say this person is A++, right? So they have their own accounting program. They have all those details, and they're going to summarize for us, right? Great, because that also helps, right, us stay efficient, also corroborate, and hopefully translate to a lower accounting bill for you at the end of the day. Anyway, so with this scenario one, we're going to keep things really simple. I just plugged in some random numbers here. We're going to say no to sales taxes. We're going to say no for now to any home office or auto expense in this example. And I'm going to say no to any capital expenditures. So if this is your situation, then I think overall, Wealthsimple would be a great tool for you. So you're just purely filing your revenues and expenses for that business. Then yeah, I think Wealthsimple would do a fantastic job, or whatever other platforms out there. I'm going to skip through this preliminary information. I have a separate recording on that. But let's go ahead and find the business area. So here in the search bar, right, you can always type in whatever it is you think is applicable to you. So you found a T4 slip. Oh, you found a T5 slip. Okay, then selecting that and transposing that information. But today our focus is on business income. So as a sole proprietor, you are simply filing an additional form alongside your personal tax return, alongside that T1. It's called the T2125. So if you click on that, you'll be greeted with a section, and it kind of looks similar to the checklist, really. It's serving to hopefully capture that same information. But let's say it takes you a few weeks to get organized. Once you are organized, you open up your tax program and you can simply transpose that information. Okay, so you can communicate that, right? Business name, what kind of income, mindful that the tax year will default just to that calendar tax year, January to December. Do your best with the industry code, right? Try to find your best fit there. And here we go. So let me go and plug in some of these numbers. I don't even want to say how many times I've done this. I think trying to record these videos is just not my thing. Okay, business, meals, and entertainment. Honestly, I'd rather do 100 tax returns than do another recording. But anyways, I will give this a go. Okay, so notice here, interest and bank fees, they tend to like to group it together. So that's fine. I like to separate that, but legal, professional fees, accounting fees. Okay, so super simple. And so look at here over on the left, and I don't know if you caught that earlier when it was just the revenue. There was that atrociously high, like 26,000 maybe or so, based on your personal marginal tax rates, right? We know personal income taxes are quite high. Maybe the conversation for another day is whether you should incorporate the business, right, and take advantage of corporate tax rates, but that's a conversation for another day. And therefore, claiming those eligible expenses that serve as tax deductions that serve to reduce the taxes payable, right? So there you go. So that's scenario one. And to be honest, I think it does a really nice job. I'm going to scroll down here to the actual T2125. So if you ever see a copy of this from CRA, their forms, it looks, of course, very, very scary, right? But Wealthsimple does a nice job at transposing that information. Maybe another recording for another day is when I walk through like a T2125. But it's all there, right? It's transposed that information, okay, and has calculated the taxes based on that information alone. So overall, not bad. I think definitely doable. Let's move over to scenario two, which is capital assets. And before I do that, actually, I'm not gonna spend time because I'm out of breath already at this point, but each of these categories, just making sure you're clear on these categories. These are accounting terms. So maybe another thing to talk about another day is that accounting lingo. But the only thing I want to highlight here is this one. Please do not include whatever you've paid to yourself, right? That is not salaries, wages in this context. There is no legal separation between you and that business as a sole proprietor. Okay, so this line here, this area here would only be payroll paid to true staff, right? You've issued them a T4, they are staff in your payroll. And so not yourself, right? Because we wouldn't be part of that payroll. You're the sole proprietor of that business. Okay. The other one I want to talk about here, capital assets. So separating that, again, we're getting into a little bit of the accounting lingo. I'm going to try to do this. So normally I spend hours and hours and hours talking about this, but here we go. So an expense lives on the income statement, right? These are expenses incurred in that period for in hopes of generating that revenue. It was used in that period. It doesn't have like a recurring life. You're not going to use it for years and years and years and years. The expense is the expense, okay? And you claim it in that period. It will then reduce the income for that period. This is different to an asset which lives over on your balance sheet, so a completely different report. Is trying to communicate, cost you've incurred, of course, or you did incur this cost, but you're going to be using it time and time and time again, either to operate the business or to grow the business, right? It's not a one-time use, and it's definitely going to live beyond one fiscal year. And so for that kind of very simple definition, we consider these to be assets. We will depreciate them over time. We'll slowly write them off over either their useful life or whatever appropriate metric. So just separating that, it really shouldn't be hidden and bundled in things like office expense or repairs and maintenance. Okay, so making sure you're clear on that difference and you report the computer, the equipment, the furniture, which I'm really hoping for that amount of money you spent, you're not just using it the one time. The example I love to use in the classroom is that if any of my students try to expense that $1 million building that was purchased, then they can just get that automatic fail. Okay, so no, we're not going to expense in that immediate year. It is an asset. So let's say we spent $5,000 in total on assets throughout the year. This is where I would say my complaint number one is with Wealthsimple. I actually don't think it does a great job here. Either I'm not fully understanding its platform. But here, let me try to find it. So I think it's over here, CCA, right? So CCA is the tax lingo for the depreciation and amortization. I don't understand what they're trying to say here. I'll report the totals only. Okay, well, if that's the case and I say 5,000 is what I purchased, I don't know why it's not doing anything. I'm not quite clear, so maybe someone from Wealthsimple can clarify that for me, but I was not happy with that. So instead, okay, they have this other option saying to calculate CCA, and this is where I pause for a moment, because if you are just a simple, average human and you haven't practiced tax, you haven't gone through the courses and the modules and the curriculum, I don't know if you know how to calculate CCA, to be honest. My students takes more than 5-6 weeks and still can't really calculate it. So it's not the most straightforward, right? Equipment class 8. Okay, so class 8 at 20%, right? I don't know whether that's common knowledge. Let me just do that here. So we said 5,000. So anyways, I mean, if it is, great, you can give it a go. But I don't like this number either because it's not correct. So I was trying to scratch my brain. Why is it saying 500? Yeah, it reduces a little bit, but not for what it should be. That's when I figured out, they somehow expect you to know that in 2024, we were still under the ACCII provisions. And so therefore, right, the CCA should be 1,000. I don't think the average person would know this. So I think this is a bit of a fail. So for that reason, if you have a lot of assets, then that would be a reason to maybe get some appropriate assistance or maybe try a different program that does a better job at that. I'm not impressed with that one. Okay, so we'll say that's scenario 2. Scenario 3, let's talk about home office and auto expense. So this is a question that comes up very often. So let's say yes. So very, very quickly here, if you have a home office, just make a note. You do have to meet certain criteria, just one of the two. And as long as you meet the criteria, then you can claim a proration, a portion of your home office, right? Home office. So let's say, for example, 2,000 is the total square footage of the home and the dedicated square footage of the space is 200. Then we're looking at a proration of about 10%. I always get this question, Sarah, can I claim a little bit of my bathroom, my dining room? The answer to that is possibly, but please don't forget about the personal portion involved with that, right? So at the end of the day, given how many hours in a day, what is the actual incremental benefit there? And comparing that to the extra documentation, the extra work, and the extra questions that might come up, I often feel like it's not worth it. But anyways, that's a conversation you can have with your tax practitioner. So let's go ahead and plug some total numbers for the entire year. Okay, so you dig up, and again, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, half the battle is staying organized, right? So hopefully you are organized, or you've hired someone to help you stay organized, right? You need to dig up these total numbers, okay, and then go ahead and populate that. Okay, we'll stop there. So moving over to Wealthsimple, I actually think it does a decent job. So very similar actually, right? So here, using a checklist to, over the next few weeks or, however long to get organized. Once you are organized, then you simply transpose that over to a platform like this. So total. And if there is any personal portion, they also ask you down here. So what did I say? Mortgage interest. Home insurance, home property taxes. Okay, so it's taking a proration. Okay, so not bad. It's taking that 10%. So I think that's a win. I think it does a nice job there. And if you're curious, okay, how does that translate over here? Beautiful, right? So it's populated part 7. Yeah, not bad. Okay, let's try the auto mileage. So again, just making sure you're clear on the criteria of a eligible mileage. That's a whole other, whole other module. But the thing I'll emphasize here is keeping track. CRA absolutely has the right to ask questions. And so if they come and ask for you to substantiate the mileage, they are expecting a logbook. Gone are the days of pen and paper, but if that's your thing, of course, right, they will be satisfied with that. Many people are just using apps, right? Free, easy apps to use that just tracks for them. So at the end of the day, you do need to track. And let's say you did track and you noted that in the year you drove 20,000 kilometers for the entire year and 10,000 of that was for business. Okay, then of course we're looking at a 50% proration. Same as the above earlier, we're looking at the total. So the total gas spent, the total car repairs and maintenance, the total car insurance, the total license fees or whatever was incurred. So you're tallying that all up. Okay, again, doing your best in whatever shape or form that may look like to stay nice and organized so that you have this, either you're communicating this to your tax practitioner or you are using that to file your own tax compliance, okay? Some extra questions here. So there are a lot of tax incentives for zero emission vehicles. So if it's a yes, then you can be on the lookout for some of those incentives. If you lease the vehicle, then of course you can deduct some of the leasing costs, but just careful, it is the lesser of 3 calculations. If you finance, then some of that interest could be deductible. Okay, there's some limitations there as well. If you, again, own or finance that vehicle, then you have an asset, right? Then, of course, we're looking to depreciate that asset. So let's say we lease. Okay, so we already said Wealthsimple doesn't seem to do a great job with the asset, the CCA on that. Then you go ahead and populate the information. So let's take a look at motor vehicle. Okay, so down here, so let's see, I'll report the totals. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Okay, so I guess we're running with this one. Total kilometers driven 20,000, 10,000. So I mean, at this stage, right, it's really the hard piece, the hard work has been done here already. So you're just transposing that into hopefully a user-friendly platform. Okay, and if you can handle this, great. I think it does a decent job, to be honest. So let me just stay focused here. I said 2,000 repairs, insurance. Okay, so I think those are the costs. So again, taking 50% of that, right? We see that here. In terms of leasing, so yeah, look, it has the same question. So I mean, right? I didn't copy Wealthsimple, we have, but it's effectively, prompting the same kind of thoughts and considerations. So yes, right? And then, yeah, I didn't populate here, but let's go ahead and make up some numbers here. So when did you enter the lease, right? Because I did say it's the lesser of 3 calculations, so that's why it's prompting those extra questions. Anyways, overall, not too bad. So what's my verdict? Not bad. Honestly, I think it does a pretty nice job, right? And it looks very scary if you were asked to populate this form, but with an interface like Wealthsimple or whatever platform you're using, I think it does a nice job at transposing that and hopefully using a nicer user interface. So, okay, what is my verdict overall? Not bad. For very, very simple businesses, right? You just have the revenue expenses. I don't see a reason why not. If you're heavy on the asset side, so you have a lot of assets, be it various capital assets or the vehicle related assets, not too impressed with that. So that's a no. If you have, again, a more simple business, but you have home office, auto expenses, I think a yes. I think it does a nice job. Overall, I think it's great. Just again, be mindful of its limitations. After giving it a go, after watching this recording and maybe testing it out for yourself, you decide yes, you think you can handle it, then using these resources to give it a go, of course. Mindful of your deadlines, mindful of other things that might come up, and just making sure you stay organized. Or maybe from this you realize, nope, no way do you want to do this on your own. Then at least you have a little bit of a basis, right? You have a little bit of an understanding, and using that understanding and making sure you know what you're signing your name to. I feel like another recording I want to do, when I can figure out these webcams and mic situation, is maybe walking through these kinds of forms. And maybe you did hire a professional to help you. You then need to self-review, need to make sure these lines are correct, right? Does anything stick out to you? So reviewing that before you sign off, I feel like that's a recording I might want to make. But otherwise, I think that will be it for today. And I'm really hoping that the mic situation works and I don't have to try this again, because this will be my last attempt. Anyways, thank you.